Welcome. Hi, friends. Welcome to the real show behind her story. And our guest today is coming from Canada in Ontario. And I can't wait to introduce her to you. So while you're joining, and if you're joining on the podcast as well, welcome, welcome. I hope this show will inspire you to share your story. Why should you share your story? Because probably you're an amazing woman entrepreneur and you're probably selling amazing offers, programs, products, services. So how do you want me to choose you over her, right? So for me, it's really like all the coaches I hired in my life. It was really about the stories they were sharing about how they could solve a problem. And this is that story that we're going to highlight today. So be ready. Sometimes we cry, sometimes we laugh, sometimes we feel things on our skin, we smell things, because it's all about, when we're kids, or if you have kids, I'm sure every night they require you to sit by the bed and share that story to fall asleep. So I don't want you to fall asleep. I want you to actually wake up and start to implement, sharing your stories or sharing the ideas, the message you want to share with the world and make money with it. So before we start, I want to introduce you to something very, very new. This show is actually going to be sponsored by my new free resource that is called The Beginner's Guide to Facebook Ads. Because one of the things when you start sharing your message on social media is that you want to reach more people. You want to attract more people, more of your perfect customers, and you're probably going to use ads at some point. So if at any time you want to learn more about how to start with Facebook ads and Instagram ads, I want you to download this. It's completely free. Just let me know in the comments, put guide, and I'll send it to you via Messenger. So without further ado, I want you to meet my guest, and we're gonna do some technical checks. 1, 2, 3, go. Bam. Hello, Lisa.
Hi, how are you?
Good. Thank you so much for being here, Lisa. I want you to take a second to jump right in and just tell us who you are.
Excellent. So thanks for asking and thanks for having me on the show, Angelique. So my name is Lisa Mitchell and I'm the founder and president of Green Apple Consulting. So I'm a thought partner for talent leaders who are looking to grow professionally, influence stakeholders, and design and develop and embed high quality development programs. So the way I do that is through offering leadership coaching. So I work with it's typically high achieving leaders who want to overcome overwhelm and to elevate their results. And I also do extensive consulting, so design and development of leadership development programs and succession planning, anything to do with the employee experience, both in small businesses and in large corporations.
So, I used to be a journalist. So I'm going to play the devil advocate. For someone who doesn't know what is a talent leader, what is a talent leader?
So it's anyone who is responsible for hiring, training, developing staff or team. So this could be a small business owner. I work with entrepreneurs, for instance, where they have no one, but they want to build a team. So it could be a team where they have people working directly for them or on a contract basis. Or they're in large organizations. I have over 20 years in corporate Canada. So it's also with leaders who perhaps they're making the leap to leadership, or they're growing their team, or they're moving from, for instance, from director to VP for the first time.
Okay. Now I understand better. Thank you so much. So Lisa, let's go back to, childhood. What type of childhood what in your childhood brought you to, do you think, after, when you look back, what in your childhood brought you to helping leaders, do you think?
Ooh, that's a good question. What brought me to helping leaders? Well, it's kind of funny because I was always seen as a natural leader, coming up through school, and I did not see myself that way. Never. I really did not. That didn't resonate with me. Although when I look back, there's many situations, I was tutoring early on sort of, built that out and, worked with my dad's pharmacy from the age of 13 and so on. And, really learned a lot early on about responsibility, autonomy. I'm firstborn as well. So, there were signs there. It really came when I actually started out as a French immersion teacher, which is very
Oh, on peut parler
odd.
français alors.
Oui, 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 c'est vrai, je parle français. I went to University of Nice in France for a year, for instance, as part of my education. And but I only did the teaching for 2 years, and I landed in corporate in kind of a roundabout way. And very early on, within about 6 weeks, I was promoted into a leadership position. And that's when I started my journey and led people for almost 25 years. So in all sorts of different capacities and supported leaders. So it was kind of a slow build, if you will.
Do you remember what was your favorite game when you were kids?
Well, Scrabble, of course. I'm a word geek, and basketball. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. So awesome. So where did you grow up? Like, are you from Ontario, like from the beginning?
Yeah.
For people who are not from Canada, what is Ontario? Like, what does that look like? Or
okay. So if you don't know where Ontario is, it's kind of in the middle of Canada, sort of eastern, slightly east. And it's home to our capital, Ottawa, and also to Toronto, which is the largest city in Canada. And I live just on the outskirts of that in another very large city called Mississauga. Okay. I grew up in Toronto proper.
Yeah. Okay. So let's start with that question that I love to ask, because it's gonna require that you think. Like sometimes we forget where we're coming from because we're so into our world, right? But what was the most burning desire for you before you started your business? Before you became a business officially, what was that burning desire in you?
Well, my last role, I was a senior executive in a really large Canadian organization. So I was vice president of talent management. And so I had responsibility for 3 big teams. And I loved what I did. And initially it was all about, they had nothing, right? So I built everything, the succession planning strategy, the leadership development strategy, curriculum, the teams to support it. And I loved it. And then about 2 years in, it was kind of interesting. I started to get a bit bored. There was programs were built and things were becoming a little more sort of entrenched. And there were a couple things I didn't care for. Overall, I loved the organization and the people, but there was something inside of me, and I was getting more and more burnt out. It was a really meetings kind of culture, like triple booked meetings, and I felt like my time was no longer my own. So to your question, what was my burning desire? It was to have autonomy and agency over my time. And I think I think the biggest breakthroughs come when you've had the biggest breakdowns. And I got physically ill and kept getting sick. And that was also another sign that I was in burnout and stress. And so I realized it's time to be intentional about how I want to live and work and not just let life and career happen to me. I'd been very successful, but it wasn't necessarily, I was smart about it in many ways, but other ways I just kind of went along with what came my way, and I was done with that. Yeah.
Wow. Okay. You gave me shivers there. So I love how you kind of make a link between your physical health and how it was a reflector of what was that it was time to move on.
Yeah.
So how did you how much, because I know a lot of women are in that position, like they have a dream, they have a message, they know that they're in charge right now, they want to go for it, but they need to make a leap, right? So how did it feel? Like, when did you get that clear message that you were getting sick because you were not at the right place anymore, that you need to take leadership on another part of your life, right?
Well, so along with repeated sinus infections and just feeling dread on Sunday nights, like major dread, the boredom started showing up in how I started to pursue new things. So for instance, as part of my sort of ideating around what could be next. Could I actually make this leap? Like, I made great money, so like, really, really had an excellent income, and, and felt good about what I'd achieved. I thought, how can I give up all this? And yet all this involved being sick and stressed. And so I started by reaching out to some previous mentors, former bosses, and so on. And I asked them in advance. I sent them a question in advance and then asked for a phone call. And the question was not like, what do you value about what I did when we worked together, but what do you remember appreciating the most about me? And then it was really interesting, because what I found when I had these conversations was people had really put some thought to it. These are really trusted people, in my life over the course of 20 years. And what the common theme was is that I ask great questions, and I help people uncover what's really going on to get clarity about what's essentially required. Okay. So what better métier to do that in than being a consultant? And it also brought variety, so an agency, it seemed to marry all these things. So I started to investigate also how to build on my previous coaching education that I'd done years earlier. And I was sort of dreaming and scheming about getting my coach credentials. And so I was interested in that. And then I decided I should have a backup plan if I do make this leap. And I bought 4 houses in 4 months with my husband. And yeah, I know, a little bit crazy. Yeah, in a small town. And we converted them into 8 apartments. So put legal basement suites in. And yeah, that became sort of part of how do I grow my wealth and diversify if I'm going to walk away and need to then build from scratch a whole new business. So I was doing a lot of things. So just knowing that I was so busy, but I wasn't engaged really in terms of my mind and my heart anymore at work. I was starting to seek all of these different pursuits. Oh, like redecorated our master bedroom and, just stuff like that, all these creative pursuits. And it started to really coalesce around this realization that, Lisa, you've got to make a shift. It's time to be very intentional and put yourself out there. Scary.
Yeah, I love this. I love how you say that this boredom, you were feeling that boredom, that lack of fulfillment. So it's funny how entrepreneur, we always need to be excited by what we do, right? And when it's tough, that is when we have a new project or we have another iteration. Like we don't like to be bored. Like we need always a meaningful and fulfilling action all the time. So when you took that decision, do you remember where you were? Was it at the kitchen table? Was it walking that, it became like, okay, I'm going to do it tomorrow?
I'd had a particularly tough week at work where I had delivered a whole bunch of things at this big conference all at once. And I was feeling just absolutely beside myself, exhausted and resentful because I had wanted to do some other stuff and I just didn't have the energy, right, in my personal life. And really it came down when I went into work that week and I ended up just breaking down and telling my boss I needed out. we needed to discuss exit strategy. So that I didn't actually go in that day intending to say that, but I had trouble sleeping. It was a Monday morning. So the Sunday night dreads really came on and I ended up just saying, you know what, I can't do this anymore.
Wow. How did it feel?
Yeah. Good. I mean, I was shocked. She was shocked. And I couldn't quite believe I'd said it because I'd sort of dreamt about it, right? I'm thinking, are you crazy? You can't do that. But anyways, and then it was such a relief. I went home that night and I just said, wow. I said to my husband, Rob, like I've just done something. It's not figured out yet, but this is a new stage. And I never looked back, because when I left, the very next day, I was having lunch with a girlfriend, and I had this idea for a name, Green Apple Consulting, because I collect apples from my teacher days. I used to get gifted all these apples, so I have about 300 of them, and green is my favorite color. And I was like, this is it. This is, green is about energy and renewal, and apple is the symbol of learning and teaching well done. And that's what I do. So I said this to my girlfriend over lunch, and she was like, you have to do it. So I incorporated right away and enrolled at my coaching school and embarked on a full 1-year transformational learning journey with them.
So within 24 hours, that was efficient.
Oh no, it wasn't 24 hours necessarily. It was yeah, by the time it was all done, but just like when I left.
Yeah, but you were
there was dropping the bomb on my boss. And then when I left, and it was fairly close together, and yeah, and it was just there was no looking back. There really wasn't. I mean, I was full on there, and it took me. It's interesting how the universe works, though, because as I was I'd been doing a lot of networking before I even left, and I just continued that. So I didn't have a lot of revenue generating work coming in just yet. That took a few months, but then all of the seeds that I planted, it just started to happen. And in the meantime, my dad had gotten ill and had to be in a home to recover and learn how to walk again. And I was able, now that I worked on my own, I had agency over my time, which was my desire. And I was able to go see him every day and take care of him. He lived with me. So, so I was able to do that without being stressed about the impact on my big job, right? And all those meetings and the teams. So,
wow. Yeah. Okay. I just love how you bring us with you at the transition time, but could you so the epiphany for you, in terms of this is my new mission, how did it become clear? When did you have that epiphany around who you were becoming?
You know what? I would say it didn't start right away. I mean, in the journey of an entrepreneur, there's so much you don't know what you don't know. And part of what's scary and why so few people, many people think about taking the leap and so few actually do, it's because you're constantly needing to figure stuff out and just put one step in front of the other, right? Take these ridiculously small baby steps and just keep moving forward. But you have to be a possibility thinker, and you have to be okay with stepping into fear over and over, right? And possibly failing, right? And so for me, initially I got quite a bit of work with a couple of training organizations going in and delivering their content, right? And as I finished my coach training, then I started to get more and more coaching clients. And what I realized after a little while, maybe about a year into it, was, oh my God, I'm becoming too busy. I'm almost back to where I was, right? In corporate, where I was overwhelmed with the busyness, but not feeling excited about it, right? There was just too much, and the full day leadership facilitation was kind of draining, and it wasn't for me and my clients. So I decided, my epiphany was, okay, it's time to be intentional again, and to decide, what am I going to, what's the boundary I'm going to put around how much am I actually going to accept in terms of work that I like, but I just don't want too much of, right? So I had to make a conscious decision to accept less of that work and take less revenue so I could build my business in the other direction around my coaching practice, which is what I did.
Yeah. It's like a sculpture,
yes.
Right? Okay, a little bit there, and then you go where. But then you had in mind, your main goal was to be in control of your time, to feel fulfilled, right? And you have those flags, right? And once it's passed, then even still now, I'm sure it's very clear for you how, your boundaries, right?
Well, yes and no. I mean, yes, they're particularly clear right now, I would say, because I've been doing a lot of work around my ideal week and ideal day design, and I'm making some really good progress, right, around how much time I want to be, because that's the trick, right? As an entrepreneur, you're always trying to strike a balance between working on your business and in your business. And I'm gradually trying to spend more on my business. So I've been making very deliberate decisions around it. But we're all human, and we all slide back. There's this ebb and flow, right? Where you're working on things and who you want to be, who you want to become. And then there's a bit of slide back. We are who we are. And it's like, oops, there I am. I'm tripping over myself again. And so being open to noticing when that happens is really powerful.
Yeah. So across that journey, what is a thing that you thought was true at the time, but clearly became something that is not true and you know for sure now? Like, do you remember what was before being an entrepreneur? Like, what was maybe something you thought was true that was proven wrong to you?
You know what? This is going to make me sound like the most naive woman on earth. But anyways, I know one of the things was I I remember, in my coaching training going, okay, I'm going to be a full-time coach, because initially I didn't want to do all of the strategy work that I'm exceptionally good at, right? With corporate folks, now I do a lot of that because I've realized I enjoy it, and it's all good. But at the time I thought, oh, well, just do the coaching, right? Maybe that's how I'm going to reinvent. And again, I need variety. I know this from history, so I need all of it. But it was funny because I remember doing like a spreadsheet or writing it out, like, okay, so if I charge this much per hour and I work 40 hours a week coaching, okay, just let that sink in. 40 hours a week coaching, then I could make this much, right? So then I was trying to figure out, does that work? Blah, blah, blah. And it's so funny because nobody can do 40 hours of coaching, right? Unless you're working 60, 70 hours in a week, because there's prep before the call, there's closing it off after, there's tracking it, doing a reflection, there's the business development, there's the setting up, there's, you know what I mean? Like there's so many other things that go into running a business. There's your bookkeeping, snapping pictures of your receipts, there's all those things. And so you're never spending a full-time work week on just your core offer, right? There's all of the other activities. So I think I knew that, but it was so naive because I became ultra clear as soon as I got into it and was truly on my own. But I was, there was a bit of a lag.
So what was the bad, like, how did you create the perfect, or I should not say the perfect solution for you, like, but how would you feel right now? How comfortable are you with the solution that you crafted for your own business, for your own personal life? What does it look like and what does it feel like? Are you close to your dream agency of time? And how close or far are you from what you were building originally?
So you know what, it's a neat question, because I think it really depends on when you're asking somebody that, right? Like what stage they're at and what's happened to them recently. So I had a really interesting epiphany yesterday that I'll share. But on the journey there, I do want to just mention to people that I think you need support. Like I think it's a lonely business being on your own. And as much as you want the agency, to make the decisions when you take vacation, when you work, all this stuff, it can be lonely and isolating. And so building community is important, and having coaching support or mentors and so on. So pretty early on, I almost right away, I had a leadership coach that I hired, and then I hired a business coach about a year and a half ago, and I was working on some signature program and some marketing language, getting clarity around my core audience and so on, and had some good progress with that. And then COVID happened, right? So I was in the midst of really starting to launch that. I built an online course around my signature program, You Reframed, which I still offer and so on. But I really, it was an opportunity to sort of say, okay, I've lost all my live leadership facilitation work for the moment, right? In March, that got wiped out. But it really caused me to sort of step back and say, let's make sure before I keep going down this particular road that it's the right thing. And the world has shifted as well. So I started working with another business coach in the summer. You and I share that.
That's where we met.
That's where we met. And, started to again adjust and pivot once more. What happened though, right after COVID is my father got ill again, and he passed away at the end of August. And I bring that up not to make people feel sorry for me. I'm sure you feel it in your heart, and thank you for that. But it was very traumatic, right? Like it was all consuming, the caregiving. and all the things that happened, and it was still a surprise. So I ended up stepping away from my business effectively for September and October, just to deal with the estate and regroup and so on. And coming out of that, November was a good month. The universe gave me some gifts in terms of awesome new work. And then I've been dealing with this feeling over the past month, though, where I thought, I just feel like I need to ramp up. I need to ramp up in my business, in my efforts, and getting back on track with a new program I'm really excited, or was really excited about developing back in June when everything started to happen. And I thought, there's this inner resistance that I am dealing with. So I was meeting with my coach yesterday, and she asked me this question. She says, well, where do you think the resistance is coming from? And I thought, well, that's just it. I don't know, because I said the stupid thing is I actually have enough. I have enough work. I do. It's not even like I need to create this new offer, this new program. So it's so interesting that I'm viewing it as very hard, and this uphill almost battle that I got to push through, right? Like slog through. And yet I'm the boss. I'm telling myself I want to do it. So I realized in that moment, it's a chance to reframe. I teach people how to reframe. It was a time for me to step back and do it myself, right? So intentionally reframe. So what if I didn't look at this as hard work and have all these expectations around whether it would be successful or not, and decide it's going to be just a fun experiment? It's my passion project. I have enough work coming in. So if it doesn't work, fine. So that freed me. It was like this, you asked about feeling or physical sensation. It was like when I thought about it, I had this pit in the core of my stomach whenever I thought about it. And it was just like dead weight that I was carrying. And as soon as I had this reframe kind of realization, I just felt so much more expansive. It was like, oh my God, it's weightless, right? That's wow. I can't wait to start working on that again. Complete shift.
Angelique, fun again, like fun.
Yes.
Back.
Yeah. So, so I think that's something I would encourage all entrepreneurs, that, there are going to be moments where you're like, why am I doing this again? Or this feels so hard. Do I really need to do this? Or you're getting conflicted advice, from different people or different opinions. Everybody's got opinions about what you should do. And it gets hard, it's like a swirl in your mind to figure out which one to tune into, which one really aligns with your heart and what you want. And so challenging yourself to sort of step back and breathe, and don't let go. If you sense resistance, keep exploring it until you figure out what it is. That's the secret to making a leap.
I hear a lot from you that how much you're connected with your inside, right? How you feel and why you feel things that you don't identify right away. So how do you cultivate that? I guess it's like a habit, or did you have to develop that, or is it part of you since the beginning that you're very aware of what's going on and how to ask the right question to yourself, or how do you cultivate that?
I'm so excited. And by the way, people, whoever's listening, we didn't actually come up with this ahead of time, but I really appreciate you asking that, because I did not have this previously to going out on my own and going through this journey the last almost 4 years. I didn't have this ability to sort through the stories and the assumptions that we tell ourselves. I think I did some of it instinctively, and it just wasn't intentional. And so I led from my head, like most of us do, right? Mm-hmm. In our culture, like we try to think our way through things, and we all have this intuition or gut instinct and our heart, our own desires, and we fail to listen to those most of the time. So we are more than just our intellect and our head. We have other senses that we can tap into. So understanding that, getting new awareness around that was really, really key for me as part of my coaching journey. You have to do a lot of inner work as you go through your education and as I started to work with clients. So that was interesting. the other piece is that journaling really is powerful for me. And a lot of people resist journals or writing stuff down, but I ask myself questions. I'll actually do a dump, like on the page, like what is bugging me right now? And I just write it all down, all the things that are worrying me, that I'm scared about, that I'm, and then I sort through and I try to figure out, what's fact, what's fiction. And I take a different color pen, literally have all different color pens, and I reframe each of those items into possibility thinking, like trying to look at it from a different perspective. So it's like, do you hike? Do you like going for walks in nature? Is that?
Yeah.
Okay. So that's one of my favorite things, whether I'm alone or with my family. And so the fall is my favorite time. We got married in the fall. It's just, everything to me is just so much more beautiful in the fall, the golden light that, that slanted late afternoon light. So just imagine you're moving through a forest and you're having a beautiful walk. And then this, early fall, winter gust comes along, this really strong wind, and it kicks up all the leaves, right? And the leaves and the dust. And temporarily you've got this swirl. That's what I think of, when your mind is just going. It's this mind swirl. So there's all these leaves and it obscures your ability to see where you came from, right? So if you think about the stories you tell yourself about that's just the way I am, or, old resentments, old stories, you can't see behind you, but you can't see where you're going either, temporarily, right? So journaling or talking through with a coach or a trusted confidant is a way to let oxygen get at your thoughts so that you can sort out fact from fiction.
Yeah. I love this. Wow. How does that your mindset and the way you train your mind, because you're like really training your mind, right? Every morning in your journal. How did that shape the way you built your business or the relationship that you build with your clients, would you say?
Oh, I think it's mainly because I walk the talk. So I've actually built my own agenda template, right? Like it's my own, and I couldn't find one that's worked for me, right? I've used all different commercial ones, other people's, but I actually built my own, and I share it with my clients if they are interested and if they believe it will help, where, I set my intention and my wellness goals for the day and the one thing I'm going to make before I manage. It's not just about my schedule and my to-do list. And it also has a reflection built in terms of what were my best results today and what will I do differently tomorrow.
Oh, I love it.
So I do this, there's days like any of us, there's days where there's, again, the slide back where I might miss it. And you know what? I'm not as intentional. I don't have as good a day when I do miss using those practices.
Yeah.
They only take 5 minutes at the front end, 5 minutes at the back end. When I do it, I am moving through my day with greater intentionality, with greater results. And so I think that when I'm able to share with my clients techniques and tools and stories from my own experience and from other clients, it brings it alive for them. I'm not sure if I'm answering your question.
Yeah, you do. Yeah. So what was, like, if there is one thing you can describe as the biggest payoff of all that journey, what is it in 2021? That you wake up every morning and you say, oh, that's it. That's still it, right? What is the biggest payoff?
Well, Rob and I went and were walking the dog earlier today. And we were actually talking about just that. And I can't remember how it come up with him. He's an entrepreneur as well. And he said, I've really realized, he was talking to somebody else, I think that had a rough year because of 2020. It really hit their small business. And they were thinking of getting a job again, like going back to what they used to do. And he says, I just can't even picture it. As much as this has been a tricky year and there's the ups and downs, I don't think I could ever do it. And I said to him, well, that's interesting because I'm the same. I like knowing that if I needed to, right, in order to support my family, in tough times, I could go get a job again, a good job, and do a great job, right, for someone else. And at the same time, I won't I won't do it unless it's like there's absolutely no other choice, right? I'm very resourceful, and I'm going to do everything I can to stay with what I'm doing. You know, I've been very fortunate in the almost 4 years I've been on my own. I've had a solid, you know, client base and good revenue coming in, and tons of learning and new opening up of community, different people that I would never have met. And so I wake up with gratitude every day. And you know what? Actually, as I think out loud here, I think the biggest shift for me has been I've made huge progress in learning to trust myself, which for all of us is what confidence is, right? All my whole life, people thought I was so confident, right? Because I've been a public speaker since I was 8 years old, you know, and I have a certain presence, I'm told, but that's just I'm extroverted. It's just my style. I have no more confidence than you or anybody, right? We all have this inner critic. So I know that I now trust that I can reframe and work my way out of any slump. And I, you know, I took that September, October off because I needed to. And I've been able to move through the grief and the exhaustion of last year more deliberately and expediently. Really, it's not finished for sure, but you know, then if I had tried to fight it like I would have when I was younger.
Oh, I love that. I love how you, stop fighting with yourself. Listen
Yes.
in.
Yes, tune in to your heart, you know, feel what you're feeling. I think we tend to tamp them down, a lot of us. I certainly have, you know, and it's not healthy. It simply keeps us stuck and kind of in purgatory longer.
Thank you so much. You're so wise. I
Oh,
love
wow.
it. It's like almost a bomb that when I hear you, like, you know, we have time, listen in, and just, you know, trust yourself and work that muscle. And I think the best way to work that muscle is to be an entrepreneur. Because each step of the way is like,
you're right. There's no end of opportunities, right? Because yeah. I mean, sometimes I think, oh my God, you know, what else is going to come at me, right? Like, but generally, like I just find it's exciting. There's so much possibility. There's so much opportunity to keep learning and growing and developing myself, and that I find that exciting, and it creates this energy that I can focus or shine on the work I do, which is around developing others, right, through one-on-one coaching, and developing leaders, helping them develop their people. So it's interesting. It's all tied, right?
Yes,
back to that shiny green apple.
Okay, so if people want to talk to you, Lisa,
yes,
who is your typical audience? Like who do you open your door to? Because I know you have different audiences. So can you remind us, who should I be, or am I eligible to talk to you?
Of course. Okay. So people, you know, if you are somebody who is really interested in beginning to live and work with intention and grace, and stop letting life work just happen to you, I'm your woman. Also, if you have a team, you're thinking of building a team, growing your team, developing your team, again, I'm your woman. So that might be through coaching for you as a leader, or through co-creating, like working elbow to elbow with a trusted mentor, right? A seasoned talent management expert. I can help you create strategy and implementation plans for programs that will work with your team.
Okay, so I put at the bottom of the screen, book a Clarity Catalyst call at lisamitchell.ca/contact, right?
Yes.
So that's a consultation with you.
Yeah, they can see right there too. There's no back and forth emails. You can actually see a date and a time that works and book it.
Okay, awesome. Yeah. So is there any question that I should have asked that I didn't?
Any question you should have asked but didn't? Oh, how about you ask me what my one word for the year 2021 is?
Sure. What is your one word for 2021?
Well, I'm going to tell you something funny first. My word for 2020, because I always set my word, and sort of think about how do I want this year to be? How do I want to create it? It was consistency, which makes me laugh hysterically because then we had a global pandemic and, grief and loss and such. There was so much drama and trauma really. So there was no way to be consistent, and for me, consistency meant around the discipline of the practices I put in place to keep that calm, steady, be more agile around that. So it is what it is. You can only laugh and move on, right? There were so many curveballs thrown in. This year, I've chosen the word cadence.
Okay, interesting. Yeah. What is that?
Well, my mantra last year was around, the word was consistency, but it was around grit and grace, right? Marrying grit, which is that perseverance, that getting the work done, taking action, with grace, with reminding myself, being conscientious about stepping back, breathing, taking time to be thoughtful and intentional. And I found that was really, really important for me last year. So this year, I'm really focused on, I flipped it, instead of grit and grace to grace-led grit. Okay, so I'm going to push ahead with grace. And I'm trying to strike a balance between the two, a cadence, right?
That's where the cadence comes.
Yeah. So really, to me, it just gives me this feeling again, in my body of not erratic, like on the hamster wheel, like the way I did live my life for many years off and on. And I see so many people doing the same, and into a more steady, intentional cadence.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you for sharing this. Are you ready for we have kind of a fast question answer?
Okay.
So the latest book you've read lately?
I always have a novel on the go. So the one I just finished, it was called The Forgotten Daughter. And it was about the daughter of one of the architects of the FLQ crisis, where they kidnapped Pierre Laporte in the 70s in Canada. It was interesting. I liked that. The last business book I read was The Soul of Money by Lynn Twist, which explores the concept of scarcity mindset and sufficiency. Fascinating.
Yeah, it's kind of with your cadence theme. It's kind of fit, right?
Yes, huge. Really, really excellent. Kind of aligned with what my focus is right now. Yes.
One of your favorite podcasts?
I have a few. I love the Tim Ferriss show. That's sort of one of the originals. Just the people he has on there and his books. It's just fascinating to me. I love Unlocking Us by Brené Brown. That's probably my top one right now. She's so down to earth and easy to listen to. And I have high respect for her research, for who she is as a human being. Yeah.
Your favorite pop star or big star or guru?
Oh God, I can't pick just one. My female trifecta of pop stars that I need to see live before I die. So I've already seen Pink. I love Pink. I love Adele. Haven't seen her live yet. And oh my God, now I've just forgotten my third one. Isn't that funny? Oh, that's too funny. What am I thinking here? Oh, well, it doesn't matter. Lately, I'm really into, this is going to sound weird. I wasn't into One Direction. That was,
Go for it.
That was not my thing. It was past my time, but I love the music of Harry Styles.
Okay.
I love his 2 albums, and Rob Thomas. I've discovered both of these during the pandemic, and I'm just like, oh my God, I just love their music.
Okay, awesome. I love it because I'm adding this to my playlist.
Excellent. Excellent.
And then your favorite dessert? Because, as a French girl, we always finish good things with a nice dessert. So what is your favorite dessert?
My great aunt Irene's butter tarts.
Oh,
I'm the keeper of the recipe. They're divine. So yeah.
I love traditions like that around food. Oh, good. It was such a pleasure to hear your story and kind of it gives all the depth about who you are as a businesswoman, and I loved it. Thank you so much,
Oh,
Lisa.
Angelique, it was just an honor to be here with you and fun. I really enjoyed it.
And then if you're watching the replay, ask a question in the comments, reach out to Lisa. Like, she's an amazing woman and you're gonna love talking to her. So thank you so much, and we're gonna close the show. And again, thank you, Lisa, and good luck for the next cadence of your life.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Angelique.